In this video, I'm going to be dissecting the 8-figure live event strategy that we used at Fund Launch. And for those of you that don't know, I was a founding partner at a coaching company called Fund Launch. At Fund Launch, we helped people launch and scale investment funds through various different offers, everything from free courses to free organic YouTube content to Instagram content to $2,000 mid-ticket offers and high-ticket offers. So a very traditional online education / info business model. But when I joined Fund Launch about, at this point, it's been around 6 years ago, back in 2020, when I joined Fund Launch, we were at around $250,000 in revenue. And through the 4.5 to 5 years that I was at Fund Launch, we were able to grow from $250,000 in revenue all the way up to $30 million in revenue. And one of the main reasons we were able to do that was through our in-person event strategy. And you'll notice in this video, I'm going to be using in-person events and live events kind of interchangeably. People say a lot of different things online. I'm more of an in-person event guy, but a lot of people in the industry say live events. But what I will say is if you host a webinar or a challenge, when it's live, that is technically a live event. So in my mind, live events can be virtual, but in-person events can only be live events. So it gets kind of confusing, but I'll be saying in-person events and live events, they mean the same thing. But at Fund Launch, we were able to generate directly from live events over $10 million in revenue, and that's from ticket sales, sponsorships, and high ticket upsales. But from the revenue aside, events were at the core of Fund Launch. They strengthened our industry authority and positioning. They built a very strong community around the Fund Launch ecosystem. They increased the lifetime value of our clients, and they produced some priceless marketing assets, both for paid ads and for organic content that Fund Launch is still leveraging today. So yes, we were able to make a lot of direct revenue from live events, but I'd almost argue that the indirect benefits, the intangible benefits from these live events were almost more important than the direct revenue that we generated. But in this video, I'm not going to be walking through, one specific event model or one specific event. I'm actually going to be showing you our entire event value ladder and how we positioned and plugged every single event into the business strategically. And my goal for you for this video is if you are running your own online education business, or you run your own community or your own consulting business, whatever it is, I'm hoping that you can see this and you can see how we leverage live events within Fund Launch, and you can take a few of those nuggets and plug them into your business as well. Because where the world's headed into a world of AI, heading into a very digital and virtual world, in-person events are going to be more valuable than ever and more in demand than ever. And the companies that pivot and position themselves as both as an online company and an offline company are going to have such strong positioning in their industry. And I hope that for you. I want you to be one of those companies that's ahead of the curve and you position yourself strategically as an online and offline business. All right, with all that being said, let's jump right into it. Now, at the base of this whole strategy, I'm going to zoom out here for a second. You can see I very poorly drew the event value ladder, and I'm going to dive into these models in a second. But at the very base of it, where everything originates from, is the Fund Launch ecosystem. What I mean by the Fund Launch ecosystem, I mean the audience, the clients, the community, the people that are, rotating around the Fund Launch solar system that are already inside of the ecosystem. And that's something that I'm going to make clear here really early on. Is a large part of our event strategy was not really marketing towards cold people. Like, yes, at the first event model for the Ascension events I'm about to walk you through, we did have some cold people there, but most people that attended our events, even the front end Ascension events, had already been inside of the Fund Launch ecosystem somewhere. They had booked a call, they had signed up for the newsletter, they had joined the free course, they had bought one of our products, they had followed Bridger on Instagram, they were subscribed to the YouTube channel. At some point, they had a touch point with our ecosystem, which really caused them to trust us. Like, the know, like, and trust factor was already built up. It wasn't starting from scratch. And honestly, when we are working with clients to host their own in-person events, we typically avoid trying to go after a cold market play. Like, yes, it can work. You can convert people to cold through an in-person event funnel, but it's way harder than just selling to warm people. So most of the time, if somebody comes to us and they don't have a warm audience built up yet, and they don't have clients, they don't have a community, they don't have people following them on social media, they don't have like a movement that they're already building, we typically advise them to go and build that up first before they start hosting live events. But that being said, it works sometimes. We actually work with a few clients where we are doing a cold audience play. There's definitely some nuance to that strategy. But just to give you a whole holistic overview of our strategy, a lot of the people that were attending these in-person events were from our pre-existing ecosystem. We weren't going and grabbing them from somewhere else and placing them into our events. And just to highlight right here, when I joined Fund Launch, we were around $250,000 in revenue. We were able to scale up to $30 million in revenue in right around 5 years. And I believe at this point they're at $45 million. So continuing to scale, which is awesome to see. All right, moving on to Ascension Events, the first event model. So this event was positioned, you could say, at the front of our event strategy. This event, the financial objective was to enroll clients into a high ticket offer. So we would host this event. It was called Fun Launch Live. We did 3 of them, and it would be a 3-day event. The first one I think had around 1,000 attendees. Then we scaled up to 1,500. And then we scaled up to like 1,800 attendees. And at these events, we would deliver a tremendous amount of value. We would plug in other speakers. We would put people in breakouts. We would create a lot of facilitated connection. Then at some point during the event, we would invite them to join our high ticket offer, which at the time of these events was in the $25,000 to $30,000 range. And out of the 3 events that we did, we were able to generate multiple 7 figures from each one. So they were very financially successful. But what I want to point out is it wasn't just the finances. It wasn't just the money that we were making that made these events worth it. There were actually some brand objectives that we had for these events as well that made them wildly profitable. Not just talking about monetarily profitable, but just profitable for the business holistically. And the first one is to build a moat around our brand. So you'll hear this a lot online these days. I see a lot of people talking about moats and like what's a moat, what's not a moat. A moat is essentially a layer of protection. It's positioning in your industry, and it protects you against competitors. It protects you against trends. It really makes your business and your brand and your ecosystem safe. That's a moat. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to build a moat around Fun Launch. And we saw that all these other industry leaders, the Tony Robbins, the Russell Brunsons, the Alex Hormozis, the Garrett Whites, all of these people were building a moat around their brand with in-person events. They were all doing in-person events, and in-person events have been used for thousands of years to build movements and to build moats around, religions and spiritual beliefs and political movements, whatever it is. This is not a new strategy that we were using to build a moat around our business, but we saw what other people were doing. A principle that we lived by at Fun Launch was watch what they're doing, not what they say, and everyone was doing events, so we decided to do events, and it worked really well. We also wanted to strengthen our community. This is actually something that's more relevant now than it was back in 2022, 23, and 24 when we were doing these events. But having a strong community is really priceless with where the world is headed right now. And the best way to build a strong community, or I guess a way to make community reach its full potential, is through in-person events. Because you can have community online. Like there's school communities, there's circle communities, there's WAP communities. You can have communities on Twitter. You can have communities on Instagram. You can have communities through video games. Like there are ways to have community online, but it can't realize its full potential until it happens in person. And we noticed that, and that's why we wanted to do events and also increase our authority. As I'm sure you know, the investment fund, investment banking, finance world is very gray-haired, and it's usually pretty exclusive. And we were just a bunch of young early to mid 20-year-olds that were trying to make a name for ourselves in this, very gray-haired old industry. And we had to do something to increase our authority. And again, we saw all these other people in these industries hosting events to increase their authority. And whether it's consciously or subconsciously, when somebody sees someone hosting an event, they see someone on the stage, they see someone shaking hands, like gathering real people in a room, subconsciously or consciously, we deem that person as an authority. So that was another objective. We also wanted social proof. Of course, when you gather a bunch of people in a room, you gather your pre-existing clients and potential clients, and it just generates a whole bunch of social proof. And we wanted to generate content. And this is like, I talk about this all the time on this channel if you're new here, but getting as much content as possible from in-person events is a huge, should be a huge focus of yours if you're hosting in-person events. Because again, going back to the social proof and the authority, when somebody sees an organic piece of content, or somebody sees an ad or something from you, they're going to associate you as an authority. They're going to see you as somebody that's leading a movement that's like actually getting results for people because you're leading a room and you're gathering a room. That's just something that people can't really do. Like not everyone can host an event. Not everyone has the leverage to be able to host an event. So if you can do that, make sure you can capture as much content as possible and repurpose it online. So those were a lot of the brand objectives that we had for these Ascension events. And like I said, we were able to generate over $10 million in direct revenue from ticket sales, upsells, as well as some sponsorship revenue. And we would do these once per year, 3-day event. There was an offer on the second day and an offer on the third day. So a very traditional format for online education businesses. And they were just wildly profitable and very powerful for our business. And these are some pictures from these events. You can see lots of attendees. We went really hard. We wanted it to be like a mixture of a music festival as well as a financial conference. So you can see there's like lots of lights and lasers. So it was a really cool experience, and they were very successful for us. So definitely recommend that you have some sort of ascension event in your value ladder, whether it's a virtual or in-person event. Like we did a lot of these ascension events in person, but we also did a lot of webinars, a lot of virtual challenges, a lot of online ascension events to convert people one-to-many into our high-ticket offers. So whether you want to do an in-person event or a virtual event, I would strongly recommend having some sort of ascension event in your ecosystem. So that is the first step right there. Moving on to fulfillment events. So the cool thing about fulfillment events is these were actually one of the key selling points for the high ticket offer that we were selling at the ascension event. So we would sell people into the high ticket offer at this ascension event, and one of the main selling points was the fulfillment events that they would get to attend. So attending these events where you can meet other members of the program, and financially these did wonders for increasing the lifetime value of our high ticket clients. We actually ran the numbers one time, and we found that out of everyone that renewed into our program, like the people that were staying inside of the program, we found that 80% of them were attending the fulfillment events, and the people that weren't attending the fulfillment events weren't renewing. The people that were renewing. So that was actually a huge unlock for us, and it made us double down on our fulfillment event strategy. But we would do like 2 to 4 of these per year, and they were very, very hands-on, very live build, very implementation focused. Like these weren't ascension events where, yeah, we would deliver value, but you want to, keep some of the secret sauce behind the scenes so people can, enroll into your program and see what it's all about. At this point, they're inside of the program, so we wanted to just like serve our faces off. So no selling here, no high level. It was very like, we're going to come and we're going to work on your businesses and your funds for 2 days, and people loved them. It was very successful for us financially with the increase in LTV, but also created a very successful program, a very successful community, essentially. But like the ascension events, we also had some brand objectives. So up first is to strengthen the community. So this the ascension event down here strengthened the community holistically, like Fund Launch's overall community, and that's people on the front end, people on the back end, people somewhere in the middle. These events were meant to strengthen the community of the high ticket program. So we wanted to really make sure that people that joined this felt like they were a part of a movement. They were a part of a tribe. Us humans, we have this desire that's in our DNA to be a part of a tribe. We're tribal social creatures. We thrive when we are in in-person communities, and we wanted it to feel that way at these events and when they were a member of the program. Also, same thing, increased authority, social proof, generate content, deliver lots of value to the client. So those were some of the brand objectives. You can see there's some overlapping ones to ascension events. A few other cool things to mention. This allowed us to raise the prices of our high ticket offer. I believe when we first launched the high ticket program, it was around $9,800. I think that was the opening price. And when we introduced these events, we raised the price to, I think up first to $15,000, then it was 20, then 25, then 30. And we didn't really see a slowdown in conversions because the events were just so valuable. Like people wanted to be in the room with other people that were on a similar journey as them. And they wanted to go and connect with people and, build relationships and build community with people that were on a similar journey as them. So it was very valuable, and we didn't see any slowdown when we raised the prices because we introduced the event. So if you have a high ticket offer right now and you're charging, $5,000 to $10,000, an easy way to justify a $5,000 to $10,000 price increase is just to attach 2 to 3 events on per year. And what you can do, what we did at least, is we would allocate about $800 to $1,000 per head out of that $25,000 to $30,000 investment, and we would just put that in a pool to fund these events, and we would use that money to pay for the events. So we already pre-allocated money for these events so that it wasn't like painful when we were trying to pay for them, but we essentially just made it cost of goods sold. Like a part of the program, when somebody invested into it, a part of their service fee would go towards funding the events. So that's kind of how we budgeted for it. And then they were a key selling point for the high ticket offer. But one more thing I want to mention is we would use these as pipeline clearing events. So these events happened, like I said, 2 to 4 times per year, so roughly once per quarter, once every other quarter. So it gave us a chance to clear our pipeline of people that were on the fence about joining the high ticket program. So if somebody was on the fence, and one of these events was a month out, we would get them on a call and be like, hey, I know you're still deciding, and I know you're still going through that process, but this event is happening next month, and the next one won't be for another 3 or 4 months. If you want to maximize the value you get, it would be smart to join now so you can kind of go through some of the program first, and then you can attend the event, and you can really hit the ground running once you get in here. So using those events as like some scarcity and urgency was actually really, really strong for us, and we were able to kind of clear our pipelines every quarter by using these events. And these are also some pictures. So fulfillment events, amazing, great for increasing lifetime value of high ticket clients, as well as all of these brand objectives. Now, moving on to the last event model, masterminds. Masterminds financially were we deployed them into the business model because we wanted to introduce a new revenue stream and also increase the lifetime value of our high ticket clients, kind of similar to fulfillment events. Because if you think about it, when somebody comes here at the Ascension event, they join the high ticket program, they do really well, then they join the mastermind. Every time they ascend up that value ladder, they're increasing their lifetime value. So that was kind of the positioning of this. And the way that we framed this mastermind, it was only for people that were managing $10 million or more in their investment fund. So it was kind of like a desired top of the value ladder room that people were always chasing. That's one thing that we designed with these events, is we always wanted people to be chasing something. So if someone was an absolute beginner, they were like really excited to be in this room at Fund Launch Live at the Ascension event, because it was like cool to learn about funds, to see what was possible, to meet other people that were interested in funds. And then the next room people wanted to be in was this the Black Card program, the high ticket program, because these were people that were actively launching their investment funds. So no longer were you going to be like this idea guy that was excited and that had, just wanted to be a part of the party. This then, when you joined the Black Card program and you attended the fulfillment events, this was the next room that you wanted to be in. And then once you joined Black Card, it was like, whoa, all these guys in the mastermind are running $10 million funds and more. Like, they're not in the launch phase anymore. They're in the scale phase. That was at the very top of the value ladder, at the top of the ecosystem, and it always gave something for people to chase. So that was kind of the strategy behind the positioning of these events. And this event was this mastermind was a $75,000 mastermind. We hosted 3 to 4 per year, and it was only for people that were running $10 million funds, which is pretty cool. And of course, we had some brand objectives. So strengthen community, gathering top performing clients and students. This is actually a very high leverage thing to do if you run your own online education business or community. One of the worst things you can do as a founder of one of those businesses is become out of touch with your clients, like what's working for them, what's not working for them. So what we would do is we would gather our best performing clients and students at these events every single year or multiple times per year. And we would be very in tune with what was working, what wasn't working, and hearing direct feedback from our services, from the market, the industry. And it was actually really cool to gather these insights and implement them into our business, in our teaching and our programs. And it just allowed us to stay really in tune with our clients and students and members. It completed the value ladder. Like I said, it was a position at the very top, so it was like that final room for people to chase. And then once people are in that room, they would stay for a long time because, it was for the people that were scaling their investment funds. And you never really get out of the phase of scaling your fund until you're like done doing funds. So there was a really good retention in that mastermind. Of course, masterminds are an authority play. So once we started hosting this mastermind, it kind of solidified us as the authority in the industry. Social proof, and of course, generating some amazing content, and of course, delivering lots of value to the clients. So those were the brand objectives there. And again, here are some pictures. This is just a casual helicopter picking up our attendees in the snow. Have some crazy stories about this one, by the way. We'll actually, I probably won't talk about it because we won't get into it. Did some Navy SEAL training here in Arizona, rode some ATVs in Alaska, shot some guns in Utah. A lot of really cool stuff for these masterminds. And then one thing that kind of wraps up the 3 event models, the Ascension events, fulfillment events, and the mastermind events. But I want to point out, this doesn't really paint an accurate picture. This like straight line through these events that kind of ends here at the masterminds, because that wasn't really what happened for us. What happened, I'm going to pull up these arrows, is these events all fed back down into the Fund Launch ecosystem. Look how pretty this is. Just quite the artist. Let me see if I can make these a little bigger. They're a little skinny right now. What these events would do is they would feed back into the Fund Launch ecosystem. So if you think about it, people would come from the Fund Launch ecosystem. They would attend the Ascension event. Some of them would convert into the fulfillment events where they would, launch their investment funds. Some of those people would convert into the mastermind events. And along the way, these people are getting amazing results. We're building a strong community. We're getting authority. We're getting social proof. All of the benefits and assets that you get from hosting events, building trust with our audience, building trust with our clients. Like, just so many amazing things for positioning were happening in the rooms of these events. This would then feed our brand, like the Fund Launch ecosystem. So these people, like the testimonials, the social proof, the authority, the community, all that stuff would kind of inflate the Fund Launch ecosystem, which would cause that to rise, which would cause more people to attend the Ascension event, more people to attend or to join the high ticket program, more people to join the mastermind, which would then cause the ecosystem to rise, which would do more people to the Ascension events, which would cause more people to join the high ticket offers. So you can see how it would cause this flywheel. And we actually call this the event flywheel. And this is our main goal when we work with clients clients now at Bullish Events. Obviously, we don't do this from the get-go. Like somebody comes to us and they're like, yeah, I want to host an Ascension event, or I want to do a fulfillment event, or I want to do a mastermind, or we have a few other event models like affinity events that are meant just to build affinity with your audience, or activation events. You just want to get your feet wet in the in-person events world and host like these smaller dinner parties and workshops. There's different event models you can play with, and we would only focus on one at a time. But the goal is to install all three of these event models into our client's business so that they can experience the event flywheel effect. And this is really what allowed us to grow so fast at Fun Launch. Yes, again, like I mentioned, we generated a lot of revenue from the Ascension events. These helped with the lifetime value. And of course, we were running ads. We had a sales team. We had, organic content. So there were other channels of generating revenue. But at the core of Fun Launch, we always joke that we were actually just an events company disguised as a fund company or a Fun Launch service, because we would host so many events and they were just at the core of our business. They fueled everything. Like they fueled the content, they fueled the community, they fueled the authority, the social proof. It was all fueled by the in-person events. So this kind of shows you the overall strategy that we leveraged at Fun Launch. And this is the goal that we have when we start working with the client. Like, yeah, we want to do the first few events to make them a success, but in 3 to 5 years, we want to have this event flywheel built out into their ecosystem. All right, that completes the dissecting of our 8-figure live event strategy that we leveraged at Fun Launch. If you run your own online education company or your own coaching business or your own community, whatever it is, and you are looking to either start hosting in-person events for your business and plug those into your ecosystem, or you're already hosting in-person events, but you would like to just see them perform better, you'd like to see better results from those events, click the link down below in the description. We would love to have a conversation with you. If not, no worries at all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.